Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bollywood Cinema Club, a show where we take a look at Indian cinema every other week. I'm your host, Chris Dashu of the Culture Cast, where this show spun off from. On this episode of Bollywood Cinema Club, I am joined by my good friend. He joins me for the action movies, it would seem, or the action-adjacent movies, the Indian cinema action movies. It's quickly becoming an Indian cinema action movie expert, your friend and mine, my old pal, Dustin.
Yeah, I can't get enough of it. Each one we watch.
I get it, man. Like we, before and after we do these episodes, we normally watch trailers to figure out what the next thing we're going to talk about is. And most of the time we're watching trailers for movies that are all in the same vein of, again, like the movie we're about to talk about, 2019's War, because it just, I don't know, it's you and I seem to gravitate towards Indian cinema action movies. And hey, that was kind of my intention with this podcast, was to find each person maybe a little bit of a lane that we can kind of stay in, but move around a little bit in. So we are finally at the end of what is currently all of the YRF Spy Universe films. We're going to be talking about 2019's War. So the film is directed by Siddharth Adnan. It is based off a story by Aditya Chopra and Siddharth Adnan. Jesus Christ. Siddharth Adnan. And it stars Hrithik Roshan and Tiger Shroff as Kabir and Kadil. Jesus Christ. Oh man, I'm fucking up tonight with all the pronunciations.
Jesus Christ is in this movie?
Yeah, boy. The film stars Hrithik Roshan and Tiger Shroff as Kabir and Khalid, two men who are raw agents, or maybe they aren't, or maybe they are. There's a lot going on. We're going to spoil the hell out of this movie. I say that now because this is a movie, I think you would agree, Dustin, go in knowing as little as possible, possibly even don't watch the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's an action movie, but it's an action movie with a lot of twists. And there are actually, let's walk this back. Not a lot of twists, but there are 2 or 3 twists that are pretty good, and they're not given away in the trailer and at all. And I think knowing less about this movie, the better. So all that out of the way, because again, spoilers at the front here. Dustin, what did you think about 2019's War?
So you've heard of from like United States television, McDreamy and McSteamy, right? From Grey's Anatomy.
Talking about Patrick Dempsey?
Yeah, and the other dude. Can't think of what his name was.
Sure.
But this was basically McDreamy and McSteamy of the spy universe, it seems like. Not that they're short, that there aren't more of them, obviously. I mean, SRK is...
a himbo daddy of my dreams.
Yeah, but these two guys are gorgeous. And they're lots of fighting, lots of shirts off. That aside, the action was good. It was very Jean-Claude Van-like, where there's a lot of flair, kind of almost dance to the fighting.
Right.
Which it has its place. It worked. I was fine with it. I enjoyed it. But you kind of said it at the beginning there. They're these spy universe films, and maybe it's just the Yash Raj films in general. They love a good twist. They love a good double cross. They love a good triple cross. And I am starting to expect it now, but I don't know who to expect it from. So that's still the question mark for me. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think I'll say this much about the movie before we get too far into it. This is, with Pathaan, as probably like my favorite of these movies. I think this might be my favorite because it has everything. It literally has everything. And there's one thing that maybe doesn't work and feels a little rushed, but I'm kind of glad it is rushed because I don't need another 20 minutes of a movie that's already 2.5 hours. But
oh yeah,
all of that aside, this movie is a lot of fun. That's all you need to know. All right, let's talk spoilers. This movie has the 2 crazy twists in it. There's no telegraphing the twists at all. Like almost to the point where I was shocked. One of the twists exists to set the other twist up. The twist of, oh, this guy isn't who he says he is. He's somebody else with a new face. That is meant to, I guess, hopefully inform you that it's going to happen again. Obviously, I'm assuming for neither one of us did. But holy shit, the twists in this movie are insane.
Yeah. It, like you said, it has everything. And it's like Face Off with John Travolta and Nick Cage. And it's, did not see that coming the first time. Didn't see it coming the second time.
And this, we'll break down the plot a little bit because I think this movie bears a tad explaining. So the film opens with Hrithik Roshan playing Kabir, who is just like Pathan, just like Tiger. He's a raw agent and he is tasked with killing a terrorist. Turns out he doesn't kill the terrorist. He kills the person who is his handler instead. His handler is another raw agent, and that leads us down the path of Kabir is a traitor. We need to bring in the team to take down Kabir. All right, who is that team? Well, Tiger Shroff is part of that team of people. He plays Khalid, who is a man whose father was a traitor who Hrithik Roshan had to kill. Then Hrithik Roshan trained him because, hey, we get a 2-year before flashback. Lots of flashbacks. Flashbacks are one thing. Intentionally leaving shit out is what this movie does with relish. And I feel like it's almost cheating at some point. We'll talk about it. But we have Kabir being chased by Khalid, but it turns out that maybe Kabir may be doing things for reasons that are more altruistic than John Abraham in Pathan, but in a very similar vein as to the, quote, villain's motivation. In this movie, it turns out Kabir's not actually the villain. Kabir has gone rogue, essentially, to root out the moles within Raw. And it turns out, in the twist of twists, and I can't even believe it works, but it works in a way that, like, it's earned, and it's beyond earned. It turns out that Tiger Shroff's character dies halfway through the movie and is replaced by the traitorous character who is the actual mole in Raw, because they disappear together halfway through the movie because Khalid chases him down and we don't see what happens, but we just see his body wash up and he comes back.
And this guy was part of the original Raw team.
Right.
Yeah.
But it turns out that guy had similar surgery that we see later in the movie that the main villain would end up having to change his identity, just like in Die Another Day, which is totally what it reminded me of.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that same, like, kinky science where it's like, and you've got a new face, and it doesn't better than whatever. Like, this movie, again, like, this movie doesn't get weighed down with that, which I appreciate. But again, like, it's drawing from things we've seen before. And wouldn't you know it, we essentially get a Hrithik Roshan versus Tiger Shroff as a villain movie in the final act of a 4-act movie. But through the first, second, and third act, we're under the impression that Hrithik Roshan is the villain and Tiger Shroff is the hero. And in the halfway through the third act and the fourth act, we are following Hrithik Roshan as the hero. So if that sounds confusing to you and you haven't watched the movie yet, shame on you for listening this far. Because this, I can't warn people enough that this movie is a movie you need to not know anything about it when you go into it, because you will benefit as a viewer from knowing nothing.
Yeah, if you try to explain like we're doing now, trying to explain what's going on, you sound crazy. You sound like, what were you smoking when you watched this? Because there are that just many twists about it that kind of just make it seem a little chaotic.
Well, but and it gets
when you watch it, it works, like you said.
It gets wrapped up in itself with all the twists and intricacies of what's going on, right? Like, it really does. And there are some parts in this movie that feel like cheating. Like, when we find out that Kabir knows that there are moles in the organization, there are conversations we did not get to see that are essentially taken out of the movie so that we can see them in the big reveal scene. And I kind of feel like that's a little bit of cheating. They do something different later with Khalid where it's, those things that we're seeing, they like, the character understands that there's a problem with them, but the other character doesn't, because they plant this seed of Khalid is unable to see out of his right periphery because he was injured because of his father being a traitor. So he has a blind spot. And later in the movie, the fake Khalid, Sarab, turns to his right when he throws him the gun. And the movie does something interesting. It really focuses on that for a second. Him turning, but it doesn't focus on Hrithik Roshan's reaction. But it's insane to me how well the twist works, because it really feels like if they had done one more twist, I would have had a problem. And the amount that they did in the movie is as far as I was willing to go with the movie. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But when they kind of revealed the him turning to the right or like noticing the thing to the right, like that was kind of like me watching him. I'm like, oh, like, oh shit.
Did you was that the scene where you realized it?
No, it was when Kabir like announced that, like when he announced that, like, you know, you react to the thing on your right.
Gotcha.
And I'm just like, gotcha. Dang, what a callback. Like that's pretty good writing.
Well,
that's a nice little detail.
Well, and I like that they go out of their way to, again, like give you as the viewer enough to pick up the twist if you're being an active viewer. I didn't catch the twist because I fully bought into the movie. And so I wasn't sitting and like thinking, oh, there's going to be a twist. Because that's the other thing. The movie does a good job of like hiding that there is going to be a twist. I mean, there's the moment where Khalid is gone and he comes back. But again, the movie leaves certain things out intentionally that if they showed it, you might have a question.
True.
Like Khalid breaking into Raw to get the TTX neurotoxin. Like they leave some of that out, but they could have shown it to kind of, oh, what's he up to? But the fact that they leave it all out and it's played straight up until that moment is just, it is a masterstroke. I know that it does feel a little overwrought at this point because Tiger had it, Ton had it, this movie has it. It is a little played out.
It's part of the formula for these films, it seems. Right. And like I said before, I just don't know where it's going to happen. I'm expecting something. I just don't know where, and that's leaves it fun.
Well, and again, it makes it where I'm not I mean, I wasn't expecting a twist. I wasn't expecting the twist that we got where he had been replaced. Like, it's just.
Yeah, that I did not. I didn't expect that was going to be the twist.
Right. Because it's not that it's not it is somewhat a sci-fi movie, I guess. I mean, that kind of technology is science fiction adjacent, but it's not a sci-fi movie. It's not Face Off. I mean, again, in Face Off, that's the conceit of the movie, is that they're switching faces, but one of them doesn't know. The other one does. Like, and that here that's the secret, is that he's not on the level. And we never see him not on the level until that moment where he hands him the drink.
Yeah.
But if you go and rewatch it and watch those scenes where he's interacting with Hrithik Roshan and the little girl that's orphaned by Hrithik Roshan, Ruhi, I mean, really, I don't know how else to put it.
I did not expect her to get thrown from the top floor of that building.
I mean that's the first twist, right? I mean, that's the first twist of the movie is the main villain is the guy that Hrithik Roshan sends his girlfriend Vani Kapoor to go and get the information from, and it turns out, oh, you're actually, you know, the main villain of the movie, who the actor who plays him is given nothing to do, which is so hilarious. Rizwan Ilyasi, like that character is like, it's either a light-skinned Indian guy or a white guy, and I guess he's an Indian guy, and like he doesn't do anything. He just like looks
villainous.
Not even like, he looks like a dope. Like Hrithik Roshan would kill him in 2 seconds. Like, you know what I mean? That's why Tiger Shroff's character had to do what he did, being killed off halfway through. I will say though, because I mentioned to you before we started, like, I have words for this movie. I don't like what they did with Tiger Shroff's character in them.
Like after he turned.
The fact that that's a component of the movie, I just wasn't a huge fan of. I was expecting more of a butting of the heads of the two of them, and it ends up being that sort of. There's more going on. I mean, it more feels like they knew they couldn't sustain that the entire movie, so there had to be some intricacies to it. It feels like a little bit of a cop-out, you know, to go back and be like, oh, well, it wasn't him the whole time, even when you think it is. Like, it rings a little hollow, but as a storytelling device, they landed it well enough that I am willing to just be like, okay, fine, like, give it a pass. But they had to land the twist as well as they did to really earn that kind of pass.
The thing that got me was, so the dude that was on the original team, he was the mole, and he's the one that switched faces with.
Right, Yash Raj Singh, yes, Sarab.
Sarab. And so then, okay, so now he's got Khalid's face, but it's still Sarab, right?
Right.
It's still Sarab's training. It's still Sarab's technically physique, just new face. And he turns into this like ultimate badass at the end, throwing Kabir through columns of concrete.
Oh,
where was Sarab before?
yeah.
Like all of a sudden he's got superpowers.
Yeah, the climax of the movie is just
flipping all over the place.
The climax of the movie is strange because all of a sudden it becomes like a superhero movie. And I'm not saying Pathan wasn't.
But there was some overwhelming strength happening into that movie.
Yeah, Hrithik Roshan getting thrown face first through like marble columns is...
one after the other.
Yeah, I think I said to my wife, I was like, he'd be fucking dead. His brain and head would be essentially like goop. It would just be like, I don't know, like there'd be nothing left. That could be put it this way. The columns wouldn't be cracking the way that they were in the movie and falling off.
He'd run him into the first one and just be like,
yeah, dead. The end. Like, I don't know. It was him. And that's the thing, like the way the movie, I don't know, like I say that this is my favorite of the movies, but then I think about the climax of the movie and I didn't like it.
Yeah, I mean, it was badass fight scene and choreography, I'll give it that, but it just took a weird tonal shift from what it was to kind of this like gritty kick people's assing type fighting to whatever that was at the end. It was just way over the top type fighting. And
it's like in the WWE fighting games, you can turn on finishers unlimited and it's just two dudes hitting rock bottoms and like tombstone pile drivers on one another. And then motherfuckers just stand right back up, no selling it. That's what it was. Like it. And again, like Pathan wasn't like that. At the end of Pathan, like there were stakes. They're in that house. They're fighting on the cliff. He's getting stabbed with the knife. And again, like
it's a little more grounded.
It's a little more grounded. We say about the movie where they were flying on jetpacks 5 minutes before.
A little more grounded as they're fighting in the house, sliding off a cliff.
Right. Like we say that, but like even now saying it out loud, it's like how the fuck is that more grounded? But it is like, and I feel like as much as I like this movie and as much as, I think I enjoy this movie overall a little bit more than Pathan, primarily because we have two leads that are both very good. I feel like I like the second twist. It's totally earned, but I don't like the way the second twist mutates the final climax of the movie. Because I think everything past that final twist feels really rushed too. Here you go off the boat. And then the next scene, we literally see Hrithik Roshan show up. And it's like, whoa, like he shows up before they explain or even give a glimmer of an idea that he could be showing. Because the way the previous scene left it is he's dead. He's dead.
Yeah.
Unless we know he knows that the poison is there, he's fucking dead.
Yep.
And he just shows up with no fanfare. It's like they were missing maybe. And look, I joked about cutting 10 minutes out of the movie, but honestly, like the climax of the movie could have used like 10 more minutes, 1 or 2 more scenes, just something to give us an idea that there is a threat and Hrithik Roshan's not coming to save us.
Well, here I thought like when he was going down after drinking that, I was like, oh, he's going to have like the antidote, or he lined his esophagus with something that's protecting him or something.
Like Homer Simpson, he lined it with wax.
Yeah. And then he goes down. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe not. Yeah, I thought he died too.
Well, again, like not saying that the movie isn't doing the twisty thing, because it is. It's twisting and turning all over the place, but I don't feel like past the second twist, the movie really lives up to the second twist.
Yeah. Yeah. At that
twist
point,
is so good. Like, and then it just kind of peters out. It's like 20 minutes of kind of Die Another Day.
Yeah.
This movie really coughs a lot from Die Another Day. They have like they have a chase on like ice, like just like Die Another Day. It's better than Die Another Day.
And before they reveal that it's not Khalid, I mean, I don't know if this is happening for you, but going through my mind, I'm like, oh, he really is just like picking up his father's legacy, being a traitor. Like, oh shit.
Honestly,
like it had me going.
Can I be honest with you? I think that would have been the better twist.
No, really?
So hear me out. So if Khalid is the bad guy of the movie, Hrithik Roshan makes a decision at the end of the movie to preserve the legacy for the mother, that he was the hero. And it's, because again, let's play this out mentally. He, has a redemptive moment right at the end, right as he's dying. Because again, we see this moment where Hrithik Roshan looks at him and he's on the ground and it's not him. but he sees these kind of like flashback moments of like what Khalid was like in life when it was actually Khalid. There's a moment where you can do with him just being the traitor.
Yeah.
It feels like, you know what it feels like? The old joke of how do we get, it was like the house is locked. How do we get in there? And there's, we got the guy with the lock pick and he's sitting there picking the lock. The motherfucker just throws a rock through the window and opens it that is what the second twist feels like. It feels like it feels like they thought they backed themselves into a corner, but they didn't. Because they keep sowing seeds that he is the traitor.
Yeah, that was leading me on.
Well, the movie's leading you on, like it's intentional, and it's weird that in and of itself is kind of a twist. That's not the twist that he's actually the traitor.
Yeah,
I think it would have worked better if he had just been the traitor at the end of the movie.
Yeah. And
just been like, I don't know what justification he would have. If you write that version,
after he gets shot, takes the bullet for Kabir, and the bad guy, gets a hold of her or whatever. Maybe, I'll save your life. You join me, or I'll give you money, or whatever. Your dad's not really dead. He's my buddy.
Oh, yeah, you could have died. Well, you put 2 bullets to the guy's eyes, so one blind, brain dead dad.
That's right.
But again, you could have had it be where like his dad disappeared or something. Like,
that wasn't your dad. It was somebody else with his face.
Oh my God, yeah, throw that fucking thing in there again. Look, we've spent a lot of time talking about the spoilery twist of the movie, and I think that in and of itself like kind of should inform you how we feel about the movie in a lot of ways, because it is a big part of the movie.
Yeah.
It is. Like, it is a huge part of this movie in a way that like twists tend to not be in movies anymore.
You don't know it's a backbone of the movie until it happens. It's like, oh.
Yeah. Like in an M. Night Shyamalan movie, I expect it. Like, I know it's coming. In this, I was genuinely shocked. Like, it was so insane that I kind of am glad that I never perused this film's Wikipedia synopsis. Because if you scroll to the cast, it says Tiger Shroff in a dual role. And like, it's like, what fucking dual role? Like, what dual role? So like, but the twist aside, this movie is so much fun.
It is.
There is so much really well done action in this movie.
I like the fight scene towards the beginning when Khalid's like on his first mission with the team. There's that big dude that they're fighting. And nobody can bring him down. That cracked me. It's like Indiana Jones, like it was funny.
Well, and the fact that we have Kabir and Khalid fighting him, and Kabir goes down, and he like looks at Khalid, looks at the guy, looks at Khalid, looks at the guy, and he's like, "You go, you go,
your turn."
I love that there are those little moments in this movie, because again, it makes the twist hurt that much more. Because you get to see these like really the genuine moments of chemistry between Hrithik Roshan and Tiger Shroff, because, hey, they cast Hrithik Roshan in this movie, and you know what he said? I'm not going to be in this movie unless you cast Tiger Shroff in it. And boy, like, yeah, because guess what? I've never seen before a Tiger Shroff movie, and holy shit, man, I'm kind of bummed I hadn't up until this point.
Yeah.
He's a martial artist.
Yeah, with flair. I mean, like there's performance to his martial arts that he does in film. It's very visual and it works really well.
Well, and like you said, I mean, the only kind of, and again, I'm not comparing his acting ability, because I mean, he blows Van Damme out of the water.
Yeah.
I mean, most people do. I mean, Jean-Claude Van Damme has a thing, and it's not. I think Jean-Claude Van Damme has gotten better as an actor. I don't think he's particularly known for his charisma. Right. But Tiger Shroff, on the other hand, good Lord, like. Mm-hmm. Just like Hrithik Roshan, just a very charismatic, genuine feeling to his performance in this movie. And he's menacing when he needs to be, but he's also very kind of down to earth when he's playing normal Khalid, not, dark evil.
Well, and he did
Scars on his face, Khalid is a better way of putting it.
He did a good job of like, they really sold the fact, the first part of the movie, Khalid revering Kabir, like he just looked up to him, and like he even says at one point, like, "You're God to me," and So you're kind of like sold on that fact, and you really buy into it. And then when he does shift, like you said, menacing, and his face, his actions, they all change. Like, it's a pretty good job shifting the way the character did.
Honestly, even thinking about it with the, like you mentioned, the kind of shift in his performance in the final act of the movie, would it have been better if the movie had him survive?
At the end.
And now he's just the villain in the next end the movie around, again, let him get away. And then we've got a villain for Hrithik Roshan in the next movie. Again, I know that's a little antithetical to Indian cinema because
kind of the Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
That's always around.
Right. Or, I mean, again, like,
changing its face.
The issue is the movie wants us to think it's Khalid who's evil at the end of the movie, and it's actually not.
Yeah.
But he acts like Khalid.
Yeah, that's the tough part too.
He acts like him, and it's like, that's not, he wouldn't do that.
I had to keep reminding myself that was not Khalid.
And he keeps acting like him, even though he's not him. And it's like, that's not how this works.
Yeah.
Not at this point. Like, there's no point at this point for this to be the case. He should be doing something else, something more akin to how that character was, Sarab, before he turns.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like, honestly,
Sarab wasn't that menacing.
I mean, the question becomes then, would it have been better to have 3 big actors in this movie, and one of them is the one who turns and then takes the face of the other one? I mean, imagine someone like, AJ Devgan, Amir Khan, even. Like, I mean, again, if you want to talk South Indian actors, I mean, Prabhas or somebody else. So you've got 3 actors, and one of them is going to replace the other unknowingly. But at the end of the movie, we now have a character that has a distinct personality connected to it that makes sense, that they can then go to, as opposed to just kind of be him being evil Khalid. But that's not what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's how that's why I say it feels kind of like a cheat. It's a little bit of cheating the logical nature of what you're trying to present. And it's hard. I mean, I'm not sitting here and saying it's easy, because you have an actor playing a character playing another character. I'm just a dude acting like a dude who dies to another dude. Like, I mean, that's what it is. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. That's the level you would go to if you were writing the script. I don't know. I don't know. It feels like a little bit of a cheat.
I do like the idea of him surviving and carrying on, because even it sounds like these spy universe movies are going to come to a head, and you're going to have all the hero characters all in one movie.
Got 3, right?
How cool would it be if some of the villains were all in one movie too? Like, that'd be awesome. Especially when you have ones like Khalid and, well, Jim didn't make it, did he?
Jim had there's less of a way out for Jim than there is for anybody else that we've seen, more or less.
So he wouldn't be there.
I mean, what they're probably going to do is they'll cast another big name opposite them to be the villain.
Yeah.
Maybe they're saving Amir Khan or, Ajay Dutt, or I don't know. I mean, there's plenty of actors, plenty of big name actors. Yeah, I can even get like someone. I mean, I don't know how believable Amitabh would be, like 70-year-old man, but I don't think you would have him doing the action scenes. I think you would have him as like the mastermind, Blofeld type, right? Someone who doesn't have to get his hands dirty. He just pays other people to do it for him. But yeah, I feel like, and again, we have a movie with a twist in it, and movies with twists in them are unique cases. They always are, because a movie like this, the twist is everything. It informs everything else. And so it changes, like we've said, changes the way the action breaks down. It changes the way you have to perceive the character when you watch the movie again. Because I would like to watch the movie for a third time and focus on some different things that I did in the first 2 times. But I do appreciate that we get an attempt at a one-shot at the beginning of the movie with Tiger Shroff. That's total. I mean, you can there's a moment or two where you can see, there's a column or two that's put intentionally so that they can use that as the opportunity to cut it and, again, cheat a little bit. But it reminded me of the Transporters so hard.
Yeah, I picked up on that too. I was like, I like that. Like, it just makes fight scenes seem a little more, I don't know, visceral in a way, because you just have to keep going, and things just seem a little more aggressive when there's no cuts. I don't know why that is, but it just does.
I mean, it forces you, and as an audience member, you have to focus. Like, you have to keep constant watch on the screen because it's not. It's there's an intent behind what's going on, but it's a different kind of intent versus where you're having a multi-shot action scene where you're getting close-ups of the fists, and because again that's most of the movie, right? Like
the dude, I have thought about it a few times since watching the movie. The dude that hits his side of his head on the corner of the pool. Oh my god!
Yeah, that first fight scene is so good. I mean, again, Tiger Shroff. Not seen him, like I've mentioned, not seen him in anything else. If you watch that scene, you get a pretty good sense of what his gimmick, what his thing is right then and there. Like, because again, you mentioned Hrithik Roshan, and I think there's more ballet informed fighting to his style than to Tiger Shroff. Tiger Shroff has some of it, obviously, but he is clearly gifted with martial arts and mixed martial arts. But like, that scene is such a good way to inform you as an audience member. If you've never seen a Tiger Shroff movie, this is what he's bringing to this equation. And it's every time he's on screen doing something, it's just, he's so good. He's such I'm so excited to watch another movie with him in it. I really am. Like, he's so charismatic, and he's such a young dude too. He has such a long time to keep doing these kinds of movies because he's only 33. He's literally the same age.
And he's got like parkour stuff he's doing in the movie, and as long as that's him, I think it is.
It looks like him.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not having him do his own stunts, but like, I kind of feel like they are. If you're that athletic and physically gifted, like, as long as you've got a good insurance policy and everything's safe on set, like, why not?
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of Hrithik Roshan? This is the first Hrithik Roshan movie we've seen.
Yeah. Well, like I said at the beginning, like, in Indian cinema does this really well anyway. Everybody's just so hot.
I like the honesty, Dust.
But like,
they are.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay.
They had to downplay how hot Hrithik Roshan is in Koi Mil Gaya. Like, they were like, hey, you need to like lose some weight. We'll give you baggy clothes so that the moment you flex your guns and your biceps pop out, it feels earned, as opposed to you're just a giant adult ripped yoked man, which he is in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, he pulls off kind of the war hero type guy, but he's also got perfect hair and, chiseled cheekbones.
And his eyes. Oh my.
Oh yeah, man. Dude's captivating.
Yeah. He's my favorite of all of these Indian cinema actors. Like, he's the one I gravitate to the most. He has, I don't know, like, I like that. As much as we kind of haven't even mentioned the Vani Kapoor character, other than kind of cracking jokes because we're little dickheads about it, as Father Malone would say. But I like that he's the one who has a kid and he's a single dad. I like that. It's like, it makes sense. Like, for whatever reason, it's like, I see Hrithik Roshan and he has that energy. And it totally works. Like, if it were Salman Khan, it might feel a little contrived, because it did kind of feel contrived in the last movie. We talked about it with Tiger Zinda. It's like, I don't believe that these people would like have a kid or need to have a kid.
And then adopted another one.
But sure. Oh, right. Oh my God. What the fuck, man? This series is all about adopting wayward children or killing their parents unintentionally.
Yeah, he totally has that single dad thing going on, and like, he could use that going to a park and like meet a new chick.
Right. Hey, you want to meet my daughter, whose mom got murdered because of me?
Yeah.
God.
I told her she'd be fine, but she fell off a roof.
Right? Fell. I mentioned at the top, I was like, there's one part of this movie that I feel like I could have done a little like, I think it's the perfect amount. I wouldn't even say like a little less of the romance stuff in this movie is just the right amount. It's like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah. And like, he, no bones about it. He straight up just treats her like an asset.
Yeah. Like kind of an ass.
Yeah. He's kind of like, even if he did care for her, he was like, yeah, I'm just doing my duty.
I really just need to kill this one guy.
Yeah. And that booty is part of this duty. So I need your help.
He gets her killed in a really like, it's just like, I don't know. We're laughing about it because, like, again, like, he's like, I'll save you. And he shows up and she's just dead. Like, Yeah, like, okay, movie. I appreciate that about these movies, though, that they have no qualms about just killing characters.
Yeah.
Like even ones that, like, again, like in Tiger, the only other movie that you would have seen in this universe up until this point, like in Tiger, it's like, no, Katrina Kef survives the entire time. Like, it's not even a question. But here it's like, never mind. So, and hey, we get to see, speaking of movies in the universe, Ashutosh Rana is in this movie, who plays Luther in Pathan.
Oh yeah.
Or Luthra. I guess he plays Colonel Luthra in this movie, and he plays Colonel Luthra in that movie.
Yeah.
So finally finally some connectivity. But no mention of Tiger. They don't mention Tiger, which is funny. I was expecting like a mention of Tiger, just like an offhand mention of Tiger at some point.
Yeah, even at the end when he's kind of like positioning himself as like, I'm not going to be in the system, but I'm going to be
Tiger.
I'm going to be doing my thing. I thought there'd be like this, like, oh yeah, like Tiger, like you and Tiger.
Right. Just like I was expecting just like one of our other assets. Like,
yeah.
Right.
Something.
Yeah. Cause I mean, they've clearly established that this is all part of the same thing. Cause now we have Salman Khan and Hrithik Roshan and SRK, and who they add. I'm maybe Ranbir Kapoor, the guy from Brahmastra. Maybe he'll be the next. Maybe he'll be like the young, because like Tiger Shroff was like the young gun. Like that's the thing. Like all the dudes in this universe are like established dudes, because it's Hrithik Roshan, Shah Rukh Khan, Salman Khan. Like maybe it'll be like a Ranbir Kapoor, like a younger guy. But is that a little on the nose? Because he is the Brahmanch, or I guess he's the Agniastra. He's the Agniastra. The big B is the Brahmanch.
They need to bring him in as like a bad guy, I think.
Ranbir Kapoor, he has like that energy.
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of had in that romantic comedy we watched. He kind of had villain energy in that movie.
He could pull it off.
I'm curious where they go from Tiger 3 and then Pathan 2 and maybe even, War 2. Because, for me, what I enjoy about these movies isn't the interconnectivity. The interconnectivity is a bonus because we get to see other actors from other movies that are big name actors working together as these action hero characters. That for me, it's not like, oh, I get to see whatever the fucking Marvel stuff at this point is, where it's like one minor thing from a comic book from 40 years ago that only 10 people care about is put in something. It's like, I'm more interested in the broad stroke stuff at this point. And I want to see big name Indian actors fighting other big name Indian actors in what is quickly becoming a very solid, and I think it is a very solid action film cinematic universe.
Yeah. And I am digging it.
And they all feel very tonally consistent. Mm-hmm. I think the only one that sticks out is probably the last act of Tiger Zinda Hai.
Yeah.
Like it was like a bridge too far, maybe.
Yeah, it was a little too sitcom-y.
Well, and it was also a little too like attempt at being gritty, but not
that part. Oh yeah.
Yeah, the gritty part. I'm not talking the beginning.
Like everybody's a happy family.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of could buy that because with the end of War being what it was, where it's kind of like schmaltzy and cutesy.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, with the dog.
But I don't believe Salman Khan and Katrina Kaif, like those two having kids, like no fucking way. Like I just don't believe it. Not that they're not good actors, not that they're like not that movie isn't good. Like, it's just like, why does this need to be a thing? Like, it just doesn't add anything. It doesn't add a dimension to the characters in any believable way. But Hrithik Roshan's character in this movie having a daughter kind of does. But that all I'm interested in are the broad strokes of having SRK and Salman Khan together on screen, or SRK and Hrithik Roshan together on screen, a K3G reunion. Like that's what I'm interested in. Like, give me a little bit of that. And that's what Pathan did. And I bet that's what Tiger 3 is going to do. And I bet that's what Pathan 2 is going to do, because it's less about these like constant inward spirals on yourself into weird things like Marvel's doing, and more just putting people together in scenes, and magic comes from it. And that the simplicity to it, I think I really appreciate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it works well with this type of action format. because you can get a little too out of control when you're involving superpowers.
And complicated backstories and villains from comic books and having to hew close to things that people have been expecting for 40 years. Yeah, that stuff's exhausting. Like,
so here's a question. Like Patan was like a huge deal, right? I don't know how big of a deal War was.
A huge
in the box
deal.
office, you know?
It's the 16th highest grossing Indian film of all time.
Okay. So these movies garner a lot of attention. So do you think there's any value, like if they're trying to beef these up even more, like bringing over any actors from Western cinema? Do you think that would ever happen, or would they keep it purely Indian cinema actors?
Mike White of the Projection Booth and I talked about a movie that him and I were kind of kicking around on that episode, which would be Red Heat, but in like New Delhi or Mumbai, where you have the Westerner coming to India and all of the kind of, not quote hijinks, but cultural misunderstandings and all of that comedy stuff, or funny bits, as one might say, along with all the other stuff you expect, like all the Rush Hour, Red Heat style action. And like, I would totally be into that movie. And I'll say this though, like, Indian cinema is very popular in India. American cinema, Indian cinema is Indian cinema, and it's huge in India because people in India love cinema. That's part of the culture.
The audience may not give two craps about whatever American actor comes over.
That's kind of what I'm alluding to.
Gotcha.
It might not move the needle the way we think it does, and I don't think we're trying to be, I wouldn't say Eurocentric, but American centric. Because
I'm not suggesting that it would make the movie any better. Right. I was just thinking of the tie-in of this worldwide.
I think it would help I think it would help put an interest in Western audiences in Indian cinema. But for me,
tie it over that direction.
Yeah. For me, I want people to get interested in Indian cinema, not because an American actor had to be in it. I just look, Triple R is the closest we've gotten to like a mainstream Indian movie making it into mainstream pop culture in this country. I fucking hate the Oscars, but I hope to God having Natu Natu performed at the Oscars moves the needle in a positive direction for Indian cinema in this country, because these movies are so goddamn fun and they're so different and exciting from what we're getting made constantly in this country, that even to watch movies from last year or the year before, you don't have to go back that far to find something fun, novel, and exciting. But the further back you go, the more you get of just this fantastic cinema that we have our own thing. And it's great too. I'm not downplaying how great American cinema is any more than you would, but this is so different and so uniquely Indian that you can remove the Americanness from American movies very easily in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, American movies are made to be enjoyed by everybody all over the world. I'm not saying Indian cinema isn't, but Indian cinema is so goddamn uniquely Indian. That's what makes it so fucking amazing, is how uniquely Indian it is. Like you said that one time, it leaves room to be fun and entertaining.
Yeah. Well, here was my thought was for a movie premise, so these big threats have been thwarted, with like the virus and things like that in like Patan and whatever. But so what happens is like this Westerner shows up in India and he's trying to like run some sort of deal with the military or whatever it is. But it's like Ron Perlman.
Okay.
It's not like some big name, but it's somebody recognizable enough, looks nefarious, and like he's trying to establish some sort of crime thing or big threat thing.
You really need to watch Triple R.
I do.
You know who the villain in that movie is, right?
I saw it in the trailer. Yeah.
Ray Stevenson.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, what's funny is they cast a lot of British actors in Indian movies because British actors can play the villains, because the Brits are always the villains when they're in Indian
sound
movies.
Evil.
But I mean, a lot of Indian period films are set during the occupation.
That's true. Yeah.
Not everything is Bahubali, but, again, we've got...
They were the bad guys.
Right, exactly.
Essentially.
Yeah, so, and Triple R, they are the bad guys in that movie as well. So I think for me, what I really want as someone who is, again, as in love with Indian cinema as I am, I really do want movies like Triple R to be successful, movies like War to be successful without the kind of actor, not the kind that you're talking about, but the kind where it's like a Tom Cruise or, someone who's like globally recognizable.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it hasn't happened. I'm surprised we haven't gotten a Indian angle on Rush Hour. I'm surprised. In a lot of ways, I'm surprised that it hasn't happened. But at the same time, I'm glad that it hasn't happened yet, because my hope would be if it's going to happen anytime after today and into the future, it's going to be made more respectfully than it would have been 20, 30 years ago.
I could see Wesley Snipes getting in a movie.
I don't know who I would want to think about opposite someone like Amitabh. Like, what American actor? I would worry about being an American actor opposite some of these actors and being able to hold your own.
Yeah.
All you got to do is see one of these movies and then see the response that these actors garner when they're on screen or just from their fans. And you're stepping into something that is very different from what we have here in terms of how they're being treated and received.
And even in just what we're talking about, to be able to like what American actor could come over and be on the same caliber as like the men and women in Indian cinema.
No,
I didn't realize it until I started watching these, thanks to you asking me to do this with you. Once I started watching them, I'm like, wow, these hit different. I like these. And I mean, the performances that everybody gives are top notch.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had an issue with the performances in any of these movies.
Yeah.
It's always something else. It's normally the plot, just like the movie getting wrapped in on itself. Because, this movie does get wrapped in on itself. And,
they overtell a story sometimes.
Yeah. They
2.5 hours.
Yeah. Like, that's the thing. Like, they overcomplicate a seemingly, I don't know, straightforward story that they set up a way. They set this movie up to be one thing, and they went a different direction. And, this like weird sciencey stuff that's been injected into War is in Pathan. I mean, the thing with the jetpacks, the thing with the virus in that movie, it's kind of a sci-fi-y virus, right? Like, it kills you like immediately type thing, I know it's supposed to be, was it supposed to be smallpox, I think? Like, but it's like so much more than smallpox. Like, it was clearly much worse than, it's much worse than smallpox. So it's interesting that they're injecting this kind of like weird science fiction-y stuff, or like heightened, I guess, like science fiction, heightened reality. Like it doesn't permeate the movie outside of these like one or two little scenes or one or two kind of thematic elements, but it is there because we have a movie where a guy's face literally changes. And the explanation is more or less about as like lazy as the James Bond movie where they do it. It's like, well, something happens. But like, it's not established that in this universe, this technology exists, because you would assume if this kind of technology exists, there might be other kinds of things as well. But like this universe, this spy universe is more or less grounded in reality.
Yeah. And they just happen, the bad guys in this movie just happen to have the best plastic surgeon in the world on their payroll.
What is it? If God would make a mistake, but she wouldn't. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Again, like I think outside of the twist kind of being this like big elephant in the room, you have the scene in Marrakesh that's really kind of tense and fun. You have you have so many just like fun fight scenes between Kabir and a bunch of other people and Khalid and a bunch of other people, and then them together at the end of the movie where they're having the fight scene in the house. They're doing a lot of really well-rehearsed choreography. And then there's the scene where Kabir busts into a plane and he fights with people in a plane. That's like, it's again, like such a crazily choreographed scene. And it's a lot of fun. And you don't see that in Western movies very often. Like, it's just, it keeps going and going and going and going and going and going and breaking every convention of physics known to man over and over again. But I'm here for it.
Well, and in American movies, you see moments so you're like, oh, it's badass. But then in these action movies in Indian cinema, we see moments, and somehow they pull off badass better.
Yeah.
Like there's like, just how they choreograph it or how they film it or something about it's just better. The better ideas.
I think it's the sensibilities behind it. I feel like in a lot of ways the choreographed expectations of the dance scenes inform how the action scenes are shot. Because you, again, like with all these movies, well, let's take this back. Maybe not all, but a large majority of Indian cinema have musical numbers in it. And those musical numbers are often very well choreographed, very well shot, very well blocked. I mean, everything about them, primo stuff. I'm thinking of this, the piano scene in DDLJ specifically, or so many. I mean, Kuch Kuch Hota Hai has stuff, K3G has stuff. Plenty of Indian cinema films have fantastic musical numbers. So wouldn't it make sense if they know how to choreograph that kind of movement, they might know how to choreograph action. And we see it because the choreography is dance-like.
Yeah.
We know they're not actually hitting each other, so it is essentially dancing with a different kind of partner. But it like that, like you were mentioning the scene where the two of them fight the kind of the big Nazi, as one might call him from Indiana Jones. Like that scene is so fun and so well choreographed and so hard hitting. And you just sit and think to yourself, all right, like what do you got next? Like what are you gonna throw? Give me something else. Go into a plane and show me what you guys are gonna do with our hero inside of the plane. Like I just want to see more.
Even what they do, like, and this isn't the only movie that they do it. In a lot of these movies, this type of scene has been there. In Pathaan, it was the motorcycles on the ice.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Here it was cars in the sand. I want to say Tiger. One of them had a scene similar to that.
Weren't they going down or I guess in the second one they were going down the hill on that thing while being chased by the wolves.
Yeah. But even those are dance-like in vehicles, and they do a good job with that. But even again with the vehicles in Pathaan, at the very beginning when Jim shoots the bazooka at the vehicle coming at him, rather than it hitting the hood, rather than it hitting the front of the car or anything, it hits the back left wheel, which is a choice, and it makes the physics of the car flip so much more violent, than just normal, like end over end. It's every which way. And it happened in this movie when after their race through the sand and Kabir T-bones him into the church, like just the way it happens, it could have been through the front door. It could have been, no, it's through the corner of the church. Like it's a choice. And it just, they make these choices of how these things play out, and they just seem more aggressive and more gritty.
And the thing is, I feel like in a lot of ways, the way I would describe Indian cinema to someone like an alien, if I were to describe Indian cinema to an alien, I would say it's matter of fact. Like in a lot of ways, it's just like this, in some of the movies, like things just happen. And it's like, well, this isn't that kind of movie. And it's like, but what does that mean? What does that mean if there's not a meaning to this kind of movie or that kind of movie? And it's just, well, it's a movie that has action and romance and all kinds of things. We as Westerners have these narrowly defined, rigid boxes. Horror cannot be horror and comedy. It gets to the point where on the Culture Cast, I've had the conversation about horror comedy and comedy horror being two different things. And it's like you're literally saying the same words just out of order or in order, depending on what movie you're talking about. Like those rigid definitions seem a little less rigid with Indian cinema. And you know what, though? I love that about it.
And you get audiences in American cinema that they'll watch an action movie, and if there's like too much of a romancy thing happening, there's people like, there's too much kissy going on. But Indian cinema has the gamut. It has the whole spectrum. It
embraces it completely and gives the characters a scene together where they're able to profess their love for one another. Again, and then
the next scene, they're doing a flying knee into somebody's face.
Right. Like in my mind, you can have both. You can have one and the other. You don't have to just, it's just one or, it's just the other. Like, no. Like I want more than that at this point. I want more than that as a film watcher, because I'm sick of these like narrowly defined expectations for a movie that I didn't come up with, that you didn't come up with, but apparently we're all so fucking tied to. We're all so willing to give up our ability to be creative and unique so that we can fit into a box defined by somebody else. And then other people tell you that that box is the only definition anybody cares. I don't think so. Skinamarink was one of my favorite movies that we watched this year, and I have a hard time defining that movie to people.
I still talk about that movie to people.
Yeah, it's not a fucking horror movie, but it is, but it isn't, but it is. And like the fact that something like that can exist in Western cinema makes me hopeful that we're breaking down the conventions of genre the way Indian cinema apparently did when the first Indian cinema movie came out. Right. You know what I mean? Like that's what it feels like, cinema without limits, in a way that all we sit and do is say, well, it's the first Marvel horror movie. It's like there could have been horror elements in Marvel movies since the beginning, and we shouldn't have cared. Mm-hmm. But yet, no, you know, my horror flavored ice cream doesn't mix with your action flavored ice cream or whatever. Like, it's not even that one.
Don't put them in the same bowl.
Yeah, fuck you. I'm so sick of it. Because you look at something like this, and this has a little bit of everything. It is an action movie, but it does still have a little bit of romance. It has intrigue. It has a complex. I would say that the spy part of the movie is very much present. The spy part of the movie is where the twists come from. I mean, the spy part of the movie is where the twist came from in Pathaan and in Tiger. So maybe that's where we should be on the lookout for Tiger 3 and Pathaan 2. Is it's only going to come from like 2 or 3 possible characters.
And it's going to play into the espionage.
Yeah, it's the espionage angle.
Yes.
I'm so glad you're enjoying these movies.
Me too. Because there was a time when Bollywood first started being talked about, at least when I first started hearing about it, and I'd see like a preview of a Bollywood movie, like, I'm not going to like that. Because all I would see is the dancing and singing. And I was like, I don't want to watch a whole movie of that. But it's not that, you know. So anybody listening to this podcast right now, it's not just that. Those moments in the movie actually become fun and are welcomed. I don't want to say break, but it's just kind of a diversion from what's happening, but still is part of the story. Like,
well, the really good ones are the story.
Right.
There are some that are so, again, like it's like anything else. It's like American cinema. Not every action movie is great, and not every anything. There's no guarantees here that anything is going to be quality. So I'm so glad that you are enjoying these as much as you are, because again, I it's not that I worried, but I think everybody, at least in my mind, when they hear foreign cinema, automatically assume boring, long, drawn out, serious. Even like this is more fun than a Mission Impossible.
Oh, totally. And we've mentioned it before. I think people get turned off with subtitles, but if you can listen to a book in a car, you can read your movie on your television. Like, get over it.
And I mean, there have been plenty of movie directors who have said the same thing. You know, if that little line of text at the bottom of a movie is what's separating you from watching foreign and international cinema, you're closing off 99% of the world and focusing on.
Yeah.
Like if that's your focus is Western,
you're missing out on some good movies.
Yeah. English only cinema, like good. You know what? If that's going to be your focus, then you deserve to miss movies like this, or Pathaan, or Tiger Zinda Hai, or any of them, or Bahubali. You deserve to miss out, because if you're unwilling to make a slight compromise and I'll only watch it if it's dubbed, they're never going to dub these movies. And they shouldn't have to dub a movie for you as a Westerner, for you to be able to watch it. You shouldn't have to force people to do that. Sorry.
And how many Western movies feature a Nazi speaking German that gives you subtitles so you know what the Nazi's saying?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. People like to make problems. People like to be pains.
Yeah.
But you know what? We went and saw Pathaan in theaters, so maybe there is hope still.
Straight.
Maybe there is still hope. So I guess this is it for the YRF Spy Universe for the foreseeable future until Tiger 3 comes out.
For now. Yeah.
My hope is that we get to see Tiger 3 in theaters. I think we might. I mean, if Pathaan came out in theaters, there is a distinct possibility that we'll be able to go see Tiger 3 and report back to the listeners all about probably yet another totally awesome YRF Spy Universe movie worth watching. Because even with Tiger 2, and I think you'd probably agree, Tiger 2 is the weakest of the four.
Yeah, so far.
Even with Tiger 2 having its issues, I still enjoyed these movies a lot more than, say, something like a Mission Impossible or its equivalent in the United States with Western cinema. Like, there isn't really one yet because nobody's done that, but I guess Mission Impossible is as close as we have, or James. But these movies have been a lot of fun. And I'm very excited to see what Tiger 3 is and Pathaan 2 and wherever they go from here. I'm completely on board. And we've said that so many times. At some point, somebody's going to tell us we said it too many times, but that is not today. So, Dustin, final thoughts on War.
I don't know what else there is to say, but yeah, it hit like Pathaan did, like you mentioned. It's got everything. It's got 2 new actors that I haven't seen in anything yet, and I enjoyed their performance and what they brought to it. And now I want to see, we talked about some of their movies that they're in before we started recording, and now I want to see those because they were so good in this. So it's like every time we watch one of these, we see an actor and I want to see what she's in or he's in, and just keep exploring more of these movies. So that's my thoughts on this movie. I liked it. I'd probably watch it again, and now I want to see what else they're in.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you. As someone who has seen Hrithik Roshan films but has not seen any other Tiger Shroff movies, he is a really interesting actor, and what he brings to these movies is a lot of fun, and especially this movie. And clearly, like you said, we watched trailers for some of the other stuff, and this seems to be his thing. So I am super duper on board for whatever comes next. I think, we've got possibly Hrithik Roshan. Now you've seen Hrithik Roshan. Hrithik Roshan is the actor that may play the big villain in Brahmastra. The guy who's teased at the end of the movie may be Hrithik Roshan. That's who they were mentioning as a possible actor, which excites me to no end. But now it gives you kind of a kind of frame of reference for kind of who he is in this world. But yeah, this movie's a lot of fun. It's the most fun I've had in a while, probably since Pathaan, in terms of like an action movie that kicks ass and just like you said, these movies just go for it in a way that is so refreshing and exciting, and just makes me want to watch more. And I was talking with someone about this. This podcast, like it's a bi-weekly podcast. I've recorded 30 episodes since October.
Wow.
I've spent so much time watching Indian cinema that it is more or less what I watch on a daily or every other day basis for the last 8 months. So I'm in it, and I'm not going anywhere. And I know that you're in it, and you're super excited just like I am. So until the next time you hear Dustin and I, you can find us over at weirdingwaymedia.com, where we do episodes of this. Dustin provides the album artwork for the Scary Stories We Tell show. He was on there once, being a big old stick in the mud, the skeptic, but hey, still love him. So we all have our faults, but, that's where you can find Dustin, and you can find me here and on so many other shows over at weirdingwaymedia.com. As for this show, BollywoodCinemaClub.com, Bollywood Cinema Club, wherever you can find it. Like, rate, review the show. Tell your friends, tell your family, because hey, Indian cinema is going to be a thing for us Westerners. It should be already. I'm doing what I can to ferry us across, get more people on the boat every time, because the grass truly is greener, folks. So Dustin, thank you as always for joining me. It's always a lot of fun to sit down and watch one of these movies.
Likewise.
And as always, we'll catch you on the next episode.